Hey y'all, if you're anything like me, you've been following this Section 8 housing crisis situation like a hawk. Is the DOGE committee going to make it so millions of people will end up homeless or without their Section 8 vouchers? Will millions of homeless people never secure affordable housing under the Section 8 program? There's so many questions, and in this video, I plan to answer at least some of it or shed some light on one of the biggest issues that's happening right now that the DOGE committee is tackling, and that is misallocation of funds. I know that's something that probably interests you because you clicked on this video. So go on, come on in, take off your shoes, and let me know what you're drinking, because you know I got you. Now, you might be wondering why on a credit channel we are going to be talking about the Section 8 crisis. Well, listen, I have over 16 years of experience in the affordable housing industry, namely with the Section 8 program. Project-based Section 8 to be exact. So that means that the Section 8 is attached to the property and not the person. My name is Victoria Langford. I'm your credit solutionist and lead debt elimination strategist over at mycreditcall.com. And in today's video, again, we're just going to shed some light on a few of these things because I don't care what side of the aisle you sit on, housing is a basic human right, and everybody deserves safe, affordable, and clean housing. All right. Now, that can't happen when we have a misallocation of funds. There's a reason that this committee was created in the first place, and whether you agree or not doesn't really matter. Something's got to give. So why was I inspired to do this video? By the way, like the video before you take off, okay? Because I might have lost half of y'all already. What I want you all to do, though, as you're listening to this, is go in with an open mind, because there's a reason this is all happening. There's a reason that the HUD Secretary was appointed. And I don't know, you guys, I just feel like there's definitely some changes that need to happen. Now, why is all of this hoopla taking place? Well, one of them has to do with budgets, because HUD in and of itself is an organization that is tasked with paying landlords and owners 70% of their rents to house low-income residents, disabled residents, elderly residents. Because their organization is financial in nature, of course there's going to be some issues that could take place if people are not being monitored. Now, case in point, this is the tweet that shook the world, okay? This is the one that has everybody up in arms thinking that the program is about to stop. Let's take a look at this tweet on X. Now, according to Mr. Doge himself, Elon Musk, this is a tweet that he put out on X, and he alleges that $1.9 billion of HUD money was just recovered after being misplaced during the Biden administration. Whoo, shots fired. Now, he says here that there's a broken process. These funds were earmarked for the administration of financial services, but were no longer needed. What he's essentially saying in a nutshell is that we gave y'all a bunch of money over the years and you just let it sit in the bank. What happened? We have a lot of people that need housing. We have a lot of things that need to get fixed at all of these properties. What's going on, right? Now, I have questions too. Now, that's one of the things right there that the general population may not understand as far as what he's actually saying. But it's because you may not understand that properties get thousands of dollars from HUD every single year to allocate and spend those funds on resident services, remodeling, training, education, salaries, all kinds of stuff that HUD gives to these properties that a lot of times isn't being used. Have you ever seen those properties where actually, let's talk about it. There's a stigma with Section 8 where you think that it's run by a slumlord, or you think roaches, rats, disgusting living conditions, right? There's a reason you feel that way, and it's because those are the owners that are not allocating their funds and using them on the property like they're supposed to. Now, how do we track this? We track this by having HUD auditors, by having local auditors, by having contracted auditors. But you have to also consider, because I'm in the industry, I could see how something like this could fall by the wayside. HUD is already stretched extremely thin. They don't have enough auditors to get out and monitor the 5 million properties that are Section 8 funded. I myself, as an auditor, have a portfolio of about 2,800 units. That's right, 2,800 units. That's a lot of units. And it spans across nearly 50 different properties across the continental United States of America. So again, your girl knows what she's talking about. But this $1.9 billion is nothing to sneeze at. And that's only in the 8 years of the Biden administration. Once again, this is not necessarily how you feel politically. What's right is right, and what's wrong is wrong, and what's questionable is questionable. And right now, $1.9 billion sitting in an account that's my tax money, that's your tax money, that is questionable, to say the least. I hope we can all agree on that. Leave me a comment below to tell me how you feel about that. Now, the other thing that has a lot of people up in arms, which I sort of understand, but I also don't, is the appointment of Scott Turner as the HUD Secretary. Now, I, for one, do not disagree with this appointment. I actually think that he's a pretty good candidate. If you take some of your emotion out of this, I think you will see what I mean. Now, yes, this person is a former NFL player. Yes, this person is, a Texan, and a lot of y'all feel a certain way about people from Texas, but you gotta give this man some grace, okay? He was just confirmed as the 19th Secretary of HUD on February 5th. That's my brother's birthday. Shout out to you, brother. And he previously served as the Executive Director of the White House Opportunity Revitalization Council. This alone means that this person absolutely has his hand in affordable housing programs and knows what he's doing. Okay, guys, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle this guy falls under. He has seen some things. It also says that during his tenure there, he led the Interagency Opportunity Zones Initiative, working with the state, local, tribal, and territorial governments across the country to revitalize economically distressed areas, promote affordable housing, and the creation of new businesses. Okay, this is someone that is actively and was actively fighting against gentrification. So you cannot have a bone to pick with this guy because of the administration that he's under. We are objective thinkers on this channel, and that is why you're here. And if you are new to my channel, you will come to find out that I'm not about sensationalism here. I'm about common sense and about what's best for the greater good of everybody. And if it has to be this guy that's going to get things straight with HUD, then so be it, because I want everybody to have housing, and I don't want these owners to be holding on to billions of dollars of funds, and I don't want HUD to be holding on to billions of dollars of funds that could be spent for affordable, safe, clean housing for you, me, and everybody else, right? So that's our guy here. So I wanted to just give you some perspective on who he is, so you don't follow the sensationalism of everything and think that this administration is hiring a bunch of people that don't know what they're doing. Now, I will say, I can't really speak to Mr. Musk being ahead of DOGE, but that's another topic for another day, because that's definitely money exchanging hands or something going on in the background, allegedly. So I wanted to also tell you guys that when it comes to budgets and misallocation of funds, it's very easy for this to happen, because not only does it happen at the HUD level, but think of it this way. HUD has a bunch of money. They pass it down to the county, city, and the state, right? And then from there, these small housing authorities and other HUD hubs essentially divvy out that money, right? Now, if nobody's monitoring those entities that are giving it out, what makes you think they're monitoring the actual organizations and owners that they give the money to? Add on to that a staff that may not be trained the best in budgeting and doing all that good stuff and following company policy, you are setting yourself up for a disaster. And that's what's been happening for all of these years. Case in point, I found an article, which I'm going to show you a picture of it. This has been happening since the decade that I was born. And yes, y'all, I am an 80s baby, okay? It says here that HUD says that Orange County, this is Orange County, California, misspent funds in repair jobs. Now, if you come in close, this is from August 19th, 1989. 1989. This has been going on for decades, you guys, where funds have been misallocated, misplaced, Repairs that should have been done were not done. So in this article, they talk about how the Inspector General from HUD concluded that the county paid for rehabilitation work that was never done or got ignored. Now, see, rehabilitation work is something we talked about on one of my other videos that a lot of people on these here YouTube streets are not talking about. A big chunk of the money that HUD gives to owners is to rehabilitate their properties. Now, listen, I'm all for revitalizing a property, putting in some new sinks, refrigerators, changing the floors and all that stuff. But you got to remember, it costs money. It also takes a lot of work that if you have property management and maybe regional managers and upper management that is not up to par and is not staying on top of people, so many things are going to fall through the cracks. You also have property owners that will receive funds from HUD and then they will sit on those funds and not use them towards their properties. That's why Section 8 has the stigma of being roach and rat infested and just generally run down. But I want to give you an example of what they're talking about here in this article about Orange County. Let's say that HUD decided to give your property $50,000 to put towards rehabilitating the entire property. Of course, you can't do the entire property with only $50,000. So you have to decide how you're going to divvy that up. Maybe you're going to remodel 7 units. Maybe you're going to put a new roof in. Maybe you're going to get that massive repair on your elevator that you've been waiting to do, right? That's what you do with those funds that HUD gives you. But here's the thing. A lot of times property management companies end up having money left over because they simply just don't use it. I've had years when I was a property manager where I was given maybe $10,000, maybe $20,000 to disperse amongst 5 units to decide what we were going to replace and repair and remodel in those units. I had residents literally tell me, hey, I know you want to do my carpet, but I don't want it. Hey, I know you want to give me new cabinets, but I don't want them. A big reason this happens is because people don't want to be inconvenienced. What happens when you have to get your floor replaced? You have to move your furniture. You have to store your furniture. You probably have to go live somewhere else for a little while we rehab your unit. That's a big undertaking for somebody that's low income. So who do you think pays for that? The owner. It comes out of that budget, right? So a lot of times, if the resident says no, it's not going to happen. If the resident says yes, there's additional cost that goes into that. Now, here's the kicker, because even though we would spend all that money, you would think it would stretch out to where we'd run out of the funds. But I'm going to tell you, after doing it for about 3 or 4 years on site, you don't run out of that money. All I know as the property manager is that I have a surplus left over and I have to give it back or tell my corporate office this is what happened. I don't know what happens to that money after that. Okay? That is what this task force has to do. But they have to start at the very top, and then it's going to trickle down, and more of your local housing authorities and local auditors are going to have to come out and make sure everybody's spending money the way they're supposed to. When I started in property management, the first property I worked at back in 2008 had over $1 million in an account that HUD had given them. They weren't using that money. It was just sitting there. That's $1 million that could be better spent on rehabbing the property, on doing something great for the residents, right? Activities, who knows what. But there's so many ways that funds don't get used in Section 8. It's not just about somebody misreporting their income or cheating or fraud. It's not just about that. We're not going to only blame the tenants on this one. We're not only going to blame the property manager. We're not even only going to blame this administration. We're going to blame all of the leadership that was put into place. We're going to blame everyone that didn't go back and look at the books. You guys may not know this, but HUD wasn't auditing properties for probably a good 6 or 7 years. They only just restarted this whole thing. That's why a lot of this is happening. So imagine if every year we used to have HUD auditors and HUD physical inspectors come out to make sure we were doing our jobs. If they stopped that for a number of years, who was checking on everybody? Who was making sure that they were doing what they were supposed to do? I'm only here to ask the questions, and I'm only here to make you think a little bit more, right? Now back to this OC article, and then we're going to move on. The reason that this article is interesting is because something as simple as fixing a hole in the wall could actually lead to misallocation of funds. Think about it. If I had a hole in my wall right here and the management company just decides to hire a painter, well, what if that hole was created by electrical damage? The painter and the drywaller coming in are not versed in that, so they wouldn't be able to tell us that. They'll just patch up that hole and go on about their merry way. Now, when the wall burns down, that's going to be a problem because HUD is going to ask, hey, when that hole was in the wall, why didn't you also call an electrician in to see why that hole got put there in the first place? You saw the wiring behind the wall. What happened? Right? So this is the kind of stuff that they found in this OC article. I wasn't there. I was just a toddler, but I can assume that that's what happened. Okay. Now, this has been happening for years. I even found another article here. This one is from, I believe, the city of Baltimore. This is from 2014. Y'all, $4 million in misspent homeless funds. This is where they probably gave them money for food programs, for housing, to rehabilitate a property and maybe make a portion of those units designated just for homeless people to move in. You never know. But there's a lot of little things that HUD does for properties and owners and residents that it just doesn't get implemented. And HUD is so vast, they don't have the manpower to come down and make sure that everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. You might also remember that I said that HUD is having a massive overhaul of their entire Section 8 program under HOTMA. That's HOTMA. Go ahead and Google it. We're not talking about it here because I myself am even still learning about it. And it's going to be a doozy, you guys. Now, I want you, again, if you viewed this video, I'm going to wrap up because it's been quite a long video, but I just wanted to shed some light on this for you all because HUD has so much money to give that it's crazy to me that $1.9 billion was just sitting in an account somewhere. Somebody has to answer to that. I highly doubt the former commander-in-chief is going to be able to form a complete sentence to tell us anything about what happened there. And that's all I have to say about that. Now, again, I said in this video that residents are not to blame for the fraud or the misallocation of funds that happens. I know I said that, right? But there's a few of you that probably still haven't seen the video where I talked about the times that residents are the cause of the misallocation of funds. So if you're interested in that, I want you to click on one of these videos. It's going to say something about Section 8 terminated, and it's got our commander-in-chief's picture on it. Click on that link and go ahead and look at that video. Also, if you need to get a consultation from me, you have some questions about housing, I cannot give you legal advice, but I can give you my expertise from my over 16 years of experience in the affordable housing industry. I will see you guys on the next one, and let me know what else you want to hear about with this Section 8 debacle. I'm Victoria Langford, and I'm your credit solutionist.